Welcome to Words and Art at the CAM. This is our 9th reading here at the CAM, so let's give everyone a little applause. Thank you everyone for being here tonight. We've got a great crowd. Thank you also to Felice Cleveland and Yet Torres for getting this organized here at the CAM. Thank you also to all our featured readers this evening who are here tonight to read their works inspired by the exhibit We Already Have What We Need by Cauleen Smith. So hopefully the mic situation will be okay. I'm going to adjust it for people who come up so you don't have to adjust it or touch anything. If you want, the magic formula's right there, so you can use that. Also, keep your mask on when you come up to read, so there's no germs getting around. So please welcome our first reader, Laurie Newendorp.
Can you hear me? I've never read with a mask before. Okay, is that better? Okay. This poem has an epigraph by Wallace Stevens. When they opened the Children's Museum, my wonderful professors at the U of H read 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird. So this epigraph is by Wallace Stevens. When the blackbird flew out of sight, it marked the edge of one of many circles. The art of everything. I am worried about the African statue of a girl, her voice held by the vise on her neck, while in the distance a black sun falls on one side of a screen and is eclipsed on the other. So many of the figures performing in Smith's exhibit at the CAM have fallen to earth into shirts covered with foliage, a world created with the kiss of a rainforest where the seasons are in chaos, out of order, cherry blossoms spilling snow in artificial air, spring promising winter, and someone's left their hair hanging on a painted chair, sedately arranging flowers on 4 television screens. A woman who's aware of color variation thinks heaven is a blue hydrangea in a sky where birds of paradise flock in vases, and music made with silent keyboards is stored in cases clear as ice. One note melts to one tear in memory of John Coltrane as a rose unfolds in flames on a high-flung banner where a blackbird flies, one eye watching the art of everything. Love, resist, dream. Do we have everything we need? Hot jazz, a genesis of words and deeds. What the blackbird sings with Johnny Sunflower Seeds.
Thank you, Laurie. Our next reader, R.T. Castleberry, couldn't be here this evening, so in his place, Chuck Wemple is going to read his poem for him.
Thank you, Mary. Good evening, everybody. 2 poems by R.T. Castleberry. Replacing nature. Chasing the clicking neon of kaleidoscope splatter, Academy leader, graffiti's red's mixed message is seized by thunderblast, industry's hazing rip. At surface zero, the man-made consumes nature's design. Its pyre is a temple formed by tribal icon, forged iron, after Cauleen Smith's The Table on Fire. Arranging Truth by R.T. Castleberry. Against a backing of cyan sheet, chain link, there is a ceremony. Music adoring the plants, the wide vase, its placement, shears trim of stems, the busy shifting arrangement for fullness and height. As finished, as presented, wind rustles branch and ball, serene in their ceramic sheath, after Cauleen Smith's Cotton Plant. Thank you.
Thanks, Chuck. Our next reader is Varsha Saraiya-Shah.
Good evening, and thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, the museum, Mary, all friends here, and the opportunity to be here. My title is You Are Not What You Have. I thought of Cauleen Smith's idea, we already have what we need. And I've believed that what we need is only when we stop to see what we have. And it comes from a very spiritual take on this one, that you are not what you have. To children, yours and mine, and those who were, to children, yours and mine, and those who were, to those lost in a land of depleting plenitude, lost rivers and forests. May you rise above the digital glut of 3D and tiny screens. May you rise above the digital glut of 3D and tiny screens, millions of bodies screaming at once, see me round the clock. May your hands remake worlds. May your hands remake worlds of enduring directions, unfolding what you already possess. Your fingers are painter's foremost tool, writer's weapon, artisan's pliers. Your hands are friends of spoons and forks, consummate maps to reanimate love. May you make truths through them. May you make truths through them pause and repurpose what you already have anew. I wish what you need always arrives at your doors playfully, like a spiral, like a chain of rain. Thank you.
Thank you, Varsha. Our next reader is Vanessa Zimmer-Powell.
Hello, it's so nice to be here with all of you. I was really particularly inspired by the music in the exhibit that was tied into everything. So I hope that you get, if you didn't see the whole exhibit, the whole installation, that you get to come back because it was very powerful. Journey to Elsewhere. I am Sister St. Christopher. Carry my braids through a sinful world. Place them on the altar of emerge and see. The eagle rode my back until I found forest and field, saw a peacock feather, began to raise my flag of reflections, shower pink and green African dust. I shimmer, our sailboat comes, the hot air balloon lifts, Nina croons, here comes the sun. I study solar orange, taste eclipse, stars, read the signs, assemble icons, fertility, ancestors. Here comes the sun, I say, it's all right, it's all right. I look the eagle in the eye. We sit at the table, it's all right. I'm humming Nina Simone, Coltrane and Mingus are at my fingertips. We already have what we need.
Our next reader is across the country, but that didn't stop her from being here tonight. Can you hear me, J-Coby?
I can. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go for it.
All right. This meeting is being recorded.
Thank you so much, Mary, as always, Pam, fellow readers, and viewers, audience. It's wonderful to see so many of you in physical proximity. Are we okay on Sam?
Yes.
Everything's good.
Okay, great. So this is Esoteric Astronomy. What I responded to most immediately in this exhibit was the tableau that included the star map that included our tourists and Regulus and the M87 Messier object. So you'll see themes in this poem that are related to the personal and societal themes being treated by the artist. There's reference to universal tracks that we are all on, and to my particular resonance with our tourists as Regulus, and what I have come to know one of my roles in this world is. So, Esoteric Astronomy. Take me out of here. I cannot breathe. The assault of imagery is too much, and I long for the breath of Arcturus, that arcane library of my inner travels as archivist to the Logos. I ascend the steps through the cool air, getting cooler as I close in on the eye, alit the landing, that is not bound in clothes and cliffs to tame me. I am the wilderness, the wildness of the dark matter that is filled with stars of another color, shared beyond color, made visible with a vaporous condensation most unique. It is no insult to be a number in the logoic archives of higher magic, but the numbering does not stand as the mark of the star's exalted place in the absence of magic, in the fuzzy world at the base of the steps, with its too hot desires and steamy waters. Fueled by Leo's burning eye of Regulus, until the cooling heights are reaching, under the canopy of the Buckley vault, and Spica is known for what it is, buried deep in the womb of the mother. The mystery thus resolved, the lion climbs out of the cave with wings, and the silent watcher is born.
The recording has stopped.
Thanks, J-Coby. Our next reader is D.E. Zuccone.
Never talked to her. When I was a boy, I was fascinated by Norse myths, particularly that Odin had two ravens that flew around the world and brought him knowledge. Hugin and Munin, thought and memory. And I was so struck by that because it reminded me of being a boy, and what my boyhood was more like a crow and a magic 8-ball thought and memory. Crow libraries. I was schooled in an industrial penal colony in northeastern Ohio, cashing a paycheck at Moore's Inn every other Friday. I was schooled in an industrial penal colony in northeastern Ohio, cashing a paycheck at Moore's Inn every other Friday. What I learned stays in a derelict mill of a memory palace. Like records I hear over and over. Like records I hear over and over, vinyl Hegelian jazz dialectics. Rote perfection accompanied by hiss and pops, digression to arguments we swear we'll remember differently. One Tuesday, I'm spooning up Johansson's Delight at a wake, the spouse of a sculptor, a sea captain turned dentist. Their split level tastefully overpopulated by African statuary, her taste, antique shelves of Swedish bone china, his. Funereal in a suburban heaven with water-stained ceilings. Remnants may need to tell their tales like Ishmael, but who cares? None of his heirs wanted a legacy of colonial investment, but nobody will let it go. Nobody will let it go. Like your mother's platter you're scared to use or wash after Thanksgiving dinner. Some things are attractive, keepsakes, exotic as jewels in a tree crotch where crows don't nest anymore. Anecdotes aren't data. Anecdotes aren't data, yet life seems nudged along by forgotten gods and unspoken dreams, such as your parents bury in our hippocampi. Like puppets pretending a double take, we don't actually know what we're acting in until the curtain drops. Then popular revolutionary anthems play, maybe Panzerlied, Zombie Berlin, 1976, Yankee Doodle, Mac the Knife, maybe my favorite things.
Thank you, Dom. Next up is Marianne Vermillion.
Good evening. Cauleen Smith's work is profound and powerful, and in it I discovered not only the end of a world, but also a beginning. I found truth about slavery and suffering, cruelty and injustice, and murder at the hands of whites. Yet this is also a story of strength, of new life, of speaking out and writing books, of singing and dancing, growing flowers, and deep love. It took many drafts over several weeks before I discovered what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it. And it was through a conversation between poet Rita Dove and Jericho Brown at an in-print online reading that I learned about a poetic form created by Terence Hayes called the golden shovel. And a golden shovel is one word at the end of each line from a line written by another poet. And so I chose a line by Claudine Rankine from her book Citizen, an American lyric. This is called The Flame is Lit. It's not okay to kill people with black and brown skin. I am no savior. No one is trying to kill me. Graveyards feel it's time to ignite, tell stories on the stones. Shadows, most hide a punch in the face, shattered skin and bones colored red. It's one of the things I don't know how to do when bones don't heal. A black woman bound to find China. I see teacups, white god echoes across centuries. Who am I waiting for? A shift, a warming in oceans of ghosts, thrown from a ship on an empty street, a flaming song rising against ropes whose knots are long dead, orange flowers rejoice, a rebirth beside bodies hanging in moonlight. The sun is sharp, resurrects dark skin, no longer silent or trapped in white stones. Water, birds, books, solace in the background. Thank you.
Next up is Winston Derden.
I'm grateful for people the same height that I am. What I saw in this exhibit was a lot of assemblage and a lot of rearranging. And so for me, the drive behind a poem was to pick elements from the exhibit, from the collection, and rearrange them and try to get my own sense of meaning out of the pieces. This is called Everything You Need. At the junction of Virgo and Leo, beneath the underdog, we have what we need. A clamp on the neck to keep the head on straight at the cusp of stellar vortex. Polaroid pics and drumsticks. A black cat watching, a gold cat waving. Superstition washing good luck. Tuning in to tuba, cello, bassoon, and baritone for the sounds of sound and sight. Perhaps one wonders whether a rising tone denotes a question in musical language. Pyramids for ancient understanding. Though pilgrim, a solo is so lonely that a chorus, of course, is the answer. A hallow to the hallowed will light you up in a neon glow until rolling flat screen digressions writ large on panel projections remind, loopity-loop, where we're going is where we've been. Assembling pieces of mind for peace of mind. Arrange a hydrangea beside a coronation of carnations to put the world in order so the bird of paradise can nest here. Thank you.
Thanks, Winston. Next up is Laura Lila.
Yeah, I'm a little short. We're going to do that. Such great reading so far. This is my first time reading here at the Contemporary Arts Museum. Thank you. And with Cauleen Smith's exhibit, it brings a variety of type of art, from music to visual to a lot of inspiration that comes from what she created. We are visual creatures. We are sensory creatures, and it's a blessing and a curse. It comes with the magnitude of how much a creation brings and how much as we as creators create in this creation that we live in. So with my piece, that's where I titled it, It's Time to Regain Contact with Gaia. Somehow, it's a repeated rhythm that can break us free to see our neighborhoods more vividly, to be able to observe how street corners can share spaces with cemeteries that lay down our past right along living homes, sheltering our future. The melody carries on between the trees, from crossing roads, leading to fenced abandoned buildings that are now long forgotten of being known as spaces that took up life within them. There's no way to pass up these melodies of life and death, as they can be found running under our feet all around, from town to town and from harbor to harbor. It's simple euphonies that consist of 5 different tones, which can break us away from the endless hustle. It's simple harmonies that can transmute numbness into submission to feel something. Steven Spielberg even made simple repeated notes become a dialect for a film once. Could it be possible to take notice that these ongoing melodies are always constant within us? We are invariably pushing, pulling, drilling, burying, burning, and building. We are all a tempo, all on our own. All the while, shifts are occurring underneath us, moving in silent momentum and erupting above ground with massive impact. We can call it global warming, but these are symptoms of illness from Gaia. It's a communication that's only getting louder from her, and we carry it so close to us within the throbbing of our own cells found within our human vessels. Yet we have disconnected from her guidance and exchange of communication with technology that only seems to divide us even more. To find out we already have what we need is to look down at the bricks laid out in circles by the current living hands, which will be the same hands that inevitably fade away with death. Mother Earth will keep pushing through, evolving enough to withstand our mutations, while we take what we temporarily need during our short time on her shoulders. For all we know for sure is Gaia has been the only constant in our history. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Next up is Randall Nolte.
Thanks, Mary, and thanks, Cam, for hosting us. We already have what we need evokes a lot of themes and ideas, but it reminds me we've lost a lot in the last 18 months. From our freedom to see our friends and family to health issues, and some have died and left grieving families and friends. Many have lost some economic security. Some have lost their homes. And I think many of us feel that we have lost a sense of faith in our government and our fellow citizens to do the right thing. So this is for all of our shared loss. This poem uses a rhyming pattern that, for me, represents a reversal. Less. I used to drive a fancy car and dance out on the town in style. I'd laugh a lot and chance a smile before things got the way they are. I'd check my balance, check my health. The lights were on, the debts were paid. The scheme was on to have it made when I had made a shade of wealth. While fortune bought me easy street, misfortune brought a turnabout and turned my pockets inside out. With doubt this side, I'd make ends meet. Old days when I was in the black, my billfold still had bills to fold. Now, days are still and cross and cold as I lament my loss and lack. Yet I'll hold on somehow, I guess. I grip and grieve my shabby share, but I glance out, and if I'm fair, I notice others fare with less. Thank you.
Thanks, Randall. Next up is Elena Petrova.
Good evening, everyone. The name of the installation, we already have what we need, may sound a little bit ironic because of all the injustice and inequality present in the world, but at the same time, it's a reminder that the Earth will be sustaining us as long as we treat our planet and each other properly. And by the words of Cauleen Smith, she said, the Earth is a spaceship, act accordingly. And what is accordingly? She brings set topics of human alienation, and then contrasts it with hopeful message of her pilgrimage when she is visiting various artistic and spiritual communities and seeks for that spirit of radical generosity. I also really enjoyed in the same video of her visit of Alice Coltrane ashram, the way how she contemplates over the redemptive and transformative power of music. And my poem is short, light, it's mostly inspired by a visit of Alice ashram, and it's shaped as African wood-carved statuette. Cosmic Bebop. As if on the monitor of many security cameras, the rush hour crowd passes crosswalks to the muted squeal of fire trucks, a busker bands with his saxophone in a Katrina-worn cul-de-sac, Ghanaian figurines rise against the sun, setting to the wake of a ship, propeller backwash, the hidden life of fish and origins, somewhere tucked in the center of Messier 87, just like in our provincial Milky Way, a giant black hole, fires of plasmic jets, once filmed by Cauleen at Alice ashram. Wild blue indigos sway their flower spikes from a summer before the woolsey fire. Still wrapped in plastic, Coltrane's organ floats and astronaut in nebula, storing our myths, music arising from the generosity of the heart, the only evidence of its beating. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. Next up is John Milkerite.
Hello, everyone. Wow, there's a lot of you. Thank you, Cam, and thank you, Mary, for this ongoing series. I was pretty overwhelmed by this exhibit, starting with the title, and I found it a challenge. You know, as writers, you know, very often we try and hone in on something, but I never did. And maybe I brought back a little bit of the sound that we can't hear. That's a way of trying to make sense and to try and organize, at least for me. Ode to Contemporary Art. Peacock feather, crane, cutting carnations, potted plant, ponytail on a chair backside, drumsticks, sequins, indigo-dyed silk rayon, velvet, aluminum chain, plexiglass. A man plays a horn. A woman speaks into a blowhorn. Protest, church, statues with microphones. Sign lights up from an old Debbie Boone love song. Polaroid pen, paw-waving gold cat, riding on an elevated train. Black curtain, plaid sofa cushions, holding breath underwater, aquarium, drinking pure New Zealand artesian water or Texas spring water. The sky above a volcano just before the smoke gentles the fall of ash. Ash. Star constellation glimmering just before the smoke lays down, a blanket of ash. Sirens, cemetery, cinema, Sandra Bland and Trooper, gun, satin cord, prescription bottle, blue neon, violet flag, baby Jesus, cassette player, sailboat, the Gwendolyn Brooks book, The Riot, graphite, gouache, gum, the chirping calls from unknown birds, flash.
Thank you, John. Next up, my favorite poet, Chuck Wemple.
Thank you, Mary. Just so all of you know, Words and Art is a competitive, blindly judged competition. I don't always make it in. Sometimes Mary views favorably on my work and allows me in. So Mary, thanks for this. And Contemporary Art Museum Houston, thank you, Felice and Yet and the team. J-Coby, great to see you over there. So this, I also view my role tonight as the warm-up poet for D. Trinidad Hanks, who you'll hear after me. And you'll see why in a few minutes. So great to see you, Trinidad. A number of things struck me about this installation and exhibit when I came in and started viewing it. I added a few books behind me to my reading list. I was fascinated, as J-Coby was, with the star charts and imagery and the video and the statuary and still life compositions, the video. All of it was a bit overwhelming at first, but the more I spent time with it, a number of things really resonated, and I'll share two real briefly. I had a really good friend who I've lost contact with over the years, back when I was working in Nevada in the gold mines. His name was John Usufo Egbelueze. He was from Nigeria, and he and I would hang out after a long day's work, and he would talk about various things, like the concept that our ancestors never really leave, that they're always with us, and that sometimes they'll visit you when you need them, sometimes they'll visit you when you don't need them. And I was thinking about John quite a bit and his family. And then as I was getting ready to leave, I turned around and I almost tripped over one of those travel bags that are holding the blue rope that holds the screens. And I was suddenly struck by a strong memory of my grandmother, because the pattern on that bag is very similar to a bag that she used to have. Visitation. My grandparents arrive each year in May, around the time cool spring shifts to the open oven of summer. They always appear between midnight and early morning and wait quietly until I see them standing beside a car too old for today. And they only linger long enough for me to try and cross the road to join them in the dreamlike cinema frame that stutters like a strip of film and an old projector, and then becomes shadow and shade like an old Polaroid that grows dim and washed out with age. The scene is the same year after year, with slight alterations in clothing and eyewear, like the puzzle where you need to find 7 differences to claim a prize. A vanishing and reappearing tie, earrings transformed from seafoam bakelite discs to rhinestones set in brass. My grandmother has been given a new wig, exceedingly dark and coarse, and this tells me I am dreaming. My grandfather's gift appears to be a wide strip of duct tape stretching from his left jawline across his lips to his right mandible. Perhaps this is a gift from my grandmother. After all those years of stories about his family and cousins, no space for her to weave a tribute to her mother, college-educated, sophisticated skirts and jackets, or her father in the police force, murdered in the line of duty, leaving a line of spark-witted sisters, asserting their own space and time, suddenly chained to suave, drunken jesters, tightening invisible clamps of ownership placed at larynx and uterus. Grandfather, I have broken the curse handed down by your father's father, but you seem clouded and no longer at ease. Grandmother, throw away the wig and tell me of your journey from auburn curls to pewter waves. Tell me the stories I have not heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. And finally, Trinidad Hanks, take us home.
Good evening. First of all, Chuck, I can't see you, but I have to choose between seeing or hearing, and I want to hear the poem. That poem, it's my favorite poem that you've ever written. It just really, I'm sorry. It really touched me, sorry. And I want to explain one vocabulary word I used that some of you may be familiar with, some of you may not. The word carcassity. Anybody familiar with it? Carcassity comes from Caucasian, except when people of color use it, we use it because we don't like, it's not all whites, we don't like how that particular white person is behaving in a privileged, colonialist, entitled way. And so you'll hear lots of people of color use that. This poem broke me, and then it put me back. This exhibition, it broke me, and then it put me back together again. Because as Black people, the things we have been through, the things we go through, I don't know anybody for over 400 years, but we still go on. And so I wanted to do this poem, but I couldn't. And it wasn't until the day it was due that I began to write it. I just couldn't. I couldn't. And I kept saying, I have to. This is the first Black female exhibition here. I've got to do something. And so this is my salute to the ancestors. Family reunion. Snatched from family tree of beginnings, we wither like orphaned plants, blight. It is the ending. Vineless leaves whisper to lost leaves, questioning survival of lone leaves, of lone seeds, buds, flowers, even trees. Wrapped in discounted packs of seeds stacked for middle passage aboard cane, bruised seedlings lie pounded by white drums of Roundup, ready to use poison ivy, plus tough brush killer. Carcinogenic carcassity kills us after centuries of our sustenance. White mites leave nothing free to flower in garden of life but one fragile African violet, pollinated by black honeybees, sticky sweeteners for the soul of the world. It was enough. Dehydrated twigs gripped as we rose, a sprayed down species. Black birch, a heart-rooting tree, grows. We already have what we need.